All right, if it sounds good to everybody, I'll jump into it, and I'm sure we'll have some people be joining us as we chat here today. But I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Taylor Lazura, and I am the Director of Accounts at KWSM, a digital marketing agency. We are a full-service digital marketing agency located right here in Orange County. We also have offices in San Diego, Las Vegas, and Atlanta. And we are an agency made up of journalists, and it's really our goal to help our clients tell their story in the digital space, whatever that looks like. And today we're going to specifically be talking about TikTok for realtors. So I'm really excited to jump into it. As we get started, feel free to ask any questions that you have here in the chat box. I have a couple breaks throughout in case we want to stop for a Q&A, but feel free to be submitting questions in as you have them. I can always talk about, sometimes it's easier if we talk about them as we go along. So happy to answer any questions that you have. Our presentation today is specifically custom for you all. So we'll see how long it ends up taking. But probably somewhere between an hour and 2 hours like we have scheduled. And I'm hoping that everything goes well with our technology and things like that. I'm trying to make it really engaging where we'll have videos to show and actually be able to look at TikToks. So fingers crossed, as long as technology works the way we hope it to, that's what our plan is for today. Feel free to ping me in the chat box if anything seems to be going awry when it comes to technology, or if things are glitching on your end, just ping me and I can slow down or see if we can workshop that. All right, before we jump in, let's go over what it is that we're going to be learning today. Today, we're going to be discussing all things TikTok, like we talked about. I'll probably use the language TikTok throughout, but you all may know TikTok and Instagram Reels, they are really mirroring each other in terms of what that means. So you may hear me use, the term Reels throughout, but we'll be talking about TikTok mostly. And we're going to start by just talking about the state of social media in 2022. I know we're going to have some varying experiences just in terms of social media marketing in the past. You may have been doing social media marketing, but now TikTok is a really new area for you. You may have not done any social media marketing, so it's all going to be new, or you may have been dabbling, or maybe you're an expert by now in TikTok and just looking to see what I have to say about it. So I'll try to make it so that's inclusive for everybody and talks a little bit about everything, but we'll start with what I'm seeing that's changing in the space in 2022. Then we'll talk specifically about what makes good content and how that has changed with the TikTok model versus what you may have experienced previously in some of your marketing efforts. Then we'll dig in deep to actually how to create that content, how you can come up with a plan for yourself, how you can use it to grow your own personal businesses. And then we'll talk about how to measure if any of this is working, right? That's one of the most challenging parts. All right, this is where I start. And the funny thing is, no matter what it is that we're training about when it comes to the social media space, I always start here because at the end of the day, it always starts with your story. Your story should translate into your messaging and your brand voice, regardless of what tools you're using to get it out there. Your story has the potential to be your biggest differentiator. It's one of the things that makes you unique, and your story is yours only. And we want to make sure that we're showcasing that story in any of the content that we're creating and that we're talking about today. As an important takeaway, I'd like us to think about social media channels and TikTok specifically as the tools. They're just the tools. They're just today's modern vehicle to be able to get your story out there. But really, the overall goal is to share your story with other people. You'll be using those social media channels to help build your story and resonate with your target audience. So you want to make sure that you have the right messaging there. And, right now you may be still developing your story. You may know your story, but you're trying to figure out how to message that best out to your audience. So I like to start with a couple ways that you can start to craft that story for yourself and some of the things to ask yourself. So I usually start here, be thinking about, who founded your company and why, or in your cases, what your backstory is, what value that you're founded on, what problem you're trying to fill for others in the space, or what problems maybe or challenges does your target audience have. And I think most importantly out of all of these things, why is it that you're passionate about what you do? All these elements are going to be the things that help establish your brand and differentiate yourself from all the others who are out there. Now we're here to talk about TikTok and social media, and that will be the bulk of what we talk about today. But again, those sites really just are the tools to help you reach your overall goal. And like I said, one of our goals is telling your story, but the other goal is to drive them back somewhere else where you have that information. Now, for a lot of people, that's their website. It may be different for you. Maybe you keep that, information in a blog, or maybe you want them to come to you and you can talk to them on the phone or an in-person meeting, whatever that looks like. But for the sake of this example, I'll use the website as our hub. And you may be doing lots of different things. You may have an email newsletter that you send out to people. You may be using LinkedIn, you may be using TikTok, you may be blogging. But at the end of the day, our goal is to always drive traffic back to where that information is, or to get them to take an action. It can be great to have hundreds of thousands of followers. I mean, we'd all love that. But at the end of the day, you want them to go somewhere where the rest of that information lives, where you can start to build that trust with people. Again, and that may be just getting them in front of you. I hear people say that all the time, right? Like, if I could just get on the phone with someone, if I could just get in a meeting with someone, I can share my story. I can talk with them. You can only share so much of that with the different social media channels. Think of the social media channels, or as the TikTok in this case, as your hook. But it's all in an effort to generate that engagement, get people commenting, get people excited, but then get them to take some sort of action in a way that isn't every single post, give me a call or giving your phone number. There are some ways to do that, and we're going to talk about that today. But just keep this in mind as we're going to start talking about planning out content and what you should be writing about or what you should be talking about. Try to keep this in mind about what the overall goal is as we go through. All right, so here's some statistics for us to keep in mind, specifically updated within the last 3 years since the pandemic, just because it's changed so much. So almost 80% of people said that they would spend more time on social media to grow their network and promote their business since everything went a little bit more virtual. So we're just seeing the space even get more competitive, but then we're also on the flip side seeing more consumers and customers and buyers spending time on these channels as well. So the time that I pulled these fairly recently, the stat I was able to find is that 906 million hours a month are spent on social media. I would probably bet that has only gone up over the last recent months. But that's a pretty staggering number if we think about just how much time is spent on these channels. And if we think about the psychological reason behind why people are flocking to these channels, and at the end of the day, it really comes back to community and finding a place that they can get seemingly unbiased feedback and talk about the things that interest them or are important to them, and you're trying to find a way to engage in that conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about website or you as a person today, but we'll also talk about social media, and they're both equally as important. So I'll use the website as our hub in this example, but like I said, it may just be you as a professional, and they're both equally important. Your website, or who you are, is your credibility, and that social media piece is the authenticity behind it. You pretty much have to have both, or people feel like they have to have both. And your website is where people are going to get an idea of who you are, check your area of expertise, ultimately decide at the end of the day if you're a good fit for their needs. Or maybe, like I said, maybe it's those meetings that you're having with people. And social media is important because it continues that conversation with people when you're not able to be there right in front of them. When they're already on their phones, or they're already scrolling through their computers during work, whatever it is, that you keep in touch with them as time goes on. It works similar to email blasts as well. It allows you to be more authentic and share in real time as things are going on. If you think about that too, your website or that last meeting you had with someone, you don't update that as often, right? It lives a little bit in a evergreen way. And your social media content is the ability to be able to comment on things that are happening in the real world, things that people are experiencing. It's a living, breathing, fluid presence of yourself in the digital space. If we think about it I always like to think about the reason that these social media channels were created. And at the end of the day, they were created to connect people, right? To connect people from all over the world so that we're able to find a common place of people who share a similar interest as you, who have an answer to your problems. And that's why we're trying to grow our audiences there. This is something that everyone is probably pretty familiar with because you hear this in pretty much any marketing lesson, but that's because it's important, right? There's a reason that the know, like, and trust something you hear all the time. But just like in your in-person networking that you're doing, the purpose of all of this, like the reason we're doing any of this, even talking about TikTok today, is because we're trying to grow a community where people know, like, and trust you. And those are the things that people have always said are necessary in order for people to do business with you. You have to have all three of those things. So all the content that you're telling online, all the ways that you're telling your story online, the whole purpose of this is to shorten, at the end of the day, shorten that sales cycle so that you're able to build relationships with people and build that credibility with people quicker and more effectively. And if you think about the in-person networking that you're doing, when you nurture leads in person, you see them once or twice or three times, and you're building up that connection with them over time. It usually isn't the first time you meet them. It's usually, people in your networking groups or people that you're seeing time and time again. You're growing your in-person network. And it's the same thing online. And for whatever reason, I think just because of the way technology works, we're kind of accustomed to thinking it should be instant gratification. And I've got all these new followers, why isn't that resulting in, in sales or more leads coming through? And at the end of the day, because it has to work the same way as our in-person networking does too. So it usually takes someone looking at 4 to 5 different online resources for you to really start to get an idea of who you are and what you have to offer for them. So they're going to take a look at your TikTok, but then they're also going to look at your Instagram, and they're going to see the other places. Maybe they're going to read your blog that's online. Maybe they'll subscribe to your newsletter. It's going to take all of those touch points in order for them to kind of get to know you, like you, and trust you. And there are a couple things that I like to recommend that people do in the very beginning before they really dive too deep into the social media marketing side of things, or maybe you're already doing that and now you're taking a step back. But there are a couple of things I can recommend. So the first is to Google yourself, whether that's your business name, the name you go by professionally, like Google your professional presence online and see like, how are you showing up? And I'd even recommend opening a incognito browser so it doesn't have, Google isn't showing you what you want to see. It's showing you some of the real info. And just start by Googling yourself. And start to take a look at how you're showing up. What are the links that people are seeing first? What content are they seeing first? What does your social, are you coming up, right? That's a big one, just to start with. If someone meets you in a networking meeting and then they Google you, what is it that they're going to see? So that's a really great place to start. I think most people do that. And then the next step, which I think maybe we don't do as often as we should, is check out what other people are doing in the space. If there's somebody that you really admire, you think that they do a really great job of branding themselves, or maybe they have a really great online presence, you've seen them, maybe you've seen their billboards, whatever it is, start by searching their name and seeing what kind of content they're putting out in the space. What do their social media channels look like? How are they positioning themselves? What does their website look like? And then put your client hat on for a minute and think about how that resonates with that audience. Would you choose that competitor over yourself, or vice versa? If you were the potential buyer, would you choose yourself over some of the other people that come up in that space? And, that takes some honesty, right? And if not, what are some of the ways that you can better tell your story in order to start to create that relationship with people online? So I think that's a really great place to start. Maybe you can make a to-do today if you haven't done that already, or maybe you've got this already down and you're like, okay, what's next, right? But if not, definitely make a to-do for yourself and start here, because I think that it can really open some potential areas for you. All right, we're going to talk about TikTok today. So we've kind of already done some of this work for you, right? But even after today, be considering what platforms you really need to be on, right? At the end of the day, we're going to talk all about TikTok and talk a little bit about Reels and some of the other places, and then think, okay, is this the place that I need to be? And I'm going to give you a lot of reasons why that might be, why this is an area of opportunity. But think about some other things that could go into your digital marketing platforms. One of the things that I see from clients all the time is they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, Taylor, like I really need to be on insert social media channel here, whatever the last marketing person that they talked to told them they needed to be on this channel. And they're saying, I'm missing out a huge opportunity. I need to be on this channel. Then I say, okay, why do you need to be on that channel? And they're like, because it's so popular, I need to be on it. And I say, okay, let's take a step back and let's figure out if this is what does this make sense in your overall marketing plan? A lot of times it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I like to say, work smarter, not harder. But what I also like to say, and you'll hear me say this a couple times, I think, throughout today, is fish where there are fish. And what I mean by that is be spending time in the areas and building a community in the areas where your target audience is spending time. And that's going to take some time looking to see where doing some research, figuring out where your audience is spending time, maybe having conversations with your current clients in real life and seeing if they're using these channels. But I think sometimes people spread themselves a little bit too thin. And I would rather you do 2 or 3 marketing channels really, really well than try to do 14 different marketing channels and be spreading yourself too thin or be missing potential messages in different areas because you're just trying to do everything. So think about what social media channels are best suited for your target audience specifically, and then think about what type of content is best suited for those platforms. Those are some of the first 2 questions you're going to ask yourself. And maybe it's TikTok after today, and you say, okay, what kind of content can I create for the TikTok space? And as you mentioned before, it's important to meet your audience, where they're already spending time. So I know this is, it sounds like I'm seeing some messages. This is something that people are challenged with, right? And it's not something you have to decide overnight, but try to, think through some of the things we talk about today. And I think at the end of the day, knowledge and information is key. And that's what you need in order to make that decision for yourself. And that's what I'm going to hopefully provide you today. And then you can make some educated decisions, or we can talk more and figure out if that's going to be the right space for you. All right, so let's dive into social media specifically, which is what you all came here for, and take a look at what social media looks like in 2020. And we know change is happening. It's inevitable. I updated my presentation today, and I didn't think I'd be talking about how Elon Musk owns Twitter, but that's where we are in 2022. Not something that I thought I'd be saying the last couple of times I do these presentations. So change happens, it happens frequently. And having the information to know what's important right now, what's being prioritized, it's going to be a big part of what we talk about today. So let's just talk about like what the social media space looks like in, I say 2022, but really 2022, 2023, change doesn't happen that quickly, right? So what does it look like now for us? Contrary to what you may be seeing, I see this one a lot too. Facebook is still number 1. I hear a lot of people say that, and I think the reason that I hear people say that, Facebook is dead, or, we see in the news, Facebook is doing layoffs. And so we hear that, maybe there's some troubles happening there. Maybe you as a consumer aren't as active on that channel anymore. We see that quite a bit too. But at the time of pulling these numbers, so as of 2022, there are still nearly 3 billion active users on Facebook, and it still is the number 1 social media channel in the world. It may not be forever, but that's what it's looking at like in 2022. But that's not without competition. And, think about your audience specifically. But in September of 2021, which is the last time that we had some like concrete details about this, TikTok had finally surpassed 1 billion active users, which puts it in the ranks of what Facebook and Instagram and YouTube are doing in terms of popularity. But one of the main differences here is the way at which it's growing, right? So in 2022 alone, TikTok grew 45%. So when you compare that to some of the other channels that are also growing in popularity, and we looked at Google search traffic, TikTok search demands, people who were going to Google and searching for TikTok, grew 173% in the last year, when Instagram grew 22%. So it may not have the volume of active users that some of the other channels currently have, it is growing at a rapid rate, which is why you're hearing people say, or why you may be asking yourself, do I need to be on this channel? And what all these platforms have in common is that video content across the board, like if you're going to leave with one thing today, it's that video is king no matter what channel you're using. So even if you're sticking with your Instagram strategy because you've grown a presence there, they're prioritizing video. I'm going to talk about it quite a bit today. Video is king. In 2022, so a couple years outdated for this stat specifically, but 60% of all videos posted on the internet were under 2 minutes long. So you may have quite a bit of, video content that you've built up over time. It's a little bit longer. There was a time when YouTube was really prioritizing long form content. People were kind of used to that. We were putting it on our websites. But in these last couple of years with the rise of TikTok, short videos is rapidly rising. And we'll talk a little bit later about how long your videos specifically should be. And spoiler alert, it's only getting shorter than that. All right. Let's talk about what makes good content. Before we dive into the specifics of TikTok content itself, I like to first talk about what makes good content in 2022, 2023. And this is going to be regardless of what channel is most currently popular or what channel is trending. We still see the same things that make good content. So we're going to look at a couple different content examples, and we'll look at TikTok examples specifically, so that's what we're talking about today. But these kind of psychological things about why that content is good, or why you'll hear social media experts say that certain content is good, it's because of some of these things that help it make it stand out from some of the competition. So for me, it comes down to memorable posts that you're going to remember. If I ask you, who do you think is doing a really good job in the space right now? It's those posts that you remember, that content that you really remember. There's a couple things that make a post memorable for me. The first is that it adds value for the viewer. That's what gets them to keep coming back, to want to opt in to follow you, to want to pick up the phone and call you. It grabs their attention long enough for it to make an impression. And that's the hardest part, because you only have, I call it a thumb stopper, because if you're thinking about like scrolling through your phone or the feed, it has to get you to stop in your tracks and thumb stop. So that's what we call it that. But yeah, you only have a matter of seconds in order to grab their attention. I also think that good posts raise questions and really get people talking. It's not enough to get someone to simply watch the content, right? That's an aspect of it, but they have to also want to engage with it, want to be interested in it, and it has to really get them talking and engaging in the conversation. All right, so I'm going to talk about a couple of those like things that make good content. And we're going to try to test our technology here and see if we can look at some real life examples. So give me, a thumbs up or a yeah, that's working in the comments when they click on this video. And as long as this one looks good, I'm sure all the other videos will look good too. But let's look at this one first. This is from Duolingo. And this is, if you spent any time in the TikTok space, like they are notorious for doing a really great job on TikTok, which is, they're just a company that's out there. You're probably familiar with them, but why them? They actually have 5 million followers, and all their videos kind of feature this little mascot, and they can be a little bit out there. But one thing that I see across the board when I look at their videos, and this has been the rule no matter what channel it is that good content features people. It features the little mascot. It's not just someone talking behind a screen. Whenever possible, if you can show faces and people, it tends to do better. So let's see if we can all see this okay. All right, and we know they're short, so I'll play this one, and then as long as you all can see it and hear it, we'll keep doing these live once. I think especially for people who aren't as familiar with TikTok, it's helpful to be able to see a real life example. Right, so kind of silly, right? Somebody just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you were able to see that video and it wasn't lagging or anything, but you can see the caption here. Yep, looks like it's working. Cool. You can see the caption here. It says, quote, I hereby sentence you to an eternity of using Google Translate. And if you know Duolingo, it, helps you learn other languages. So just a funny little quirky thing that I said they have 5 million followers, but we know that your number of views and engagement doesn't always align with the number of followers that you have. This video had 5.1 million views. And it's not necessarily just this. I mean, it's a mind-boggling number to ever wrap your head around, and 99.999% of us will never get that many views on anything we ever put out. So it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how many people that actually is. And it's not this one video, right? It's because they've built up this presence online, but they have videos that have a couple 100,000 views. They have videos that have 1 million or so views. And what I've seen across all their videos is that when they actually show their teammates, they show their little character, they show real people in the video, that always performs better than some of the other videos. All right, here's another one that I'll get queued up here. But what we're looking at here is that good posts show and tell. And so for this example, we're going to use Panda Express. And I think that they do a really awesome job in this video of sharing the behind the scenes of a day in their business. And I will say, as we're looking at these examples, right, one caveat is that we all can't be Panda Express. They have a lot of really interesting, cool things to show, but so do all of you, so do all of us. And there's a way to take this concept and apply it to anybody, no matter what industry that you're in. But in this example here, you can see the post says, point of view, which is kind of like a TikTok thing. You're on the set of our Beyond the Original Orange Chicken commercial. So it's kind of walking us behind the scenes.
Welcome to the set of a Panda Express commercial for Beyond the Original Orange Chicken. These food shots were a labor of love, but they ended up looking absolutely amazing. Meet our star, Yes Chef, Slay Chef. Here's our food stylist doing absolute work all day long. Check the view from Video Village. Our director killing it as usual. These are called spoodles and we love them. Yes, there is a dedicated fire guy on set, safety first. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed.
So quick, 30 seconds, very quick video. And there's a couple of things we saw from this video, right? And if you've got thoughts on what makes these good posts, or maybe you disagree, maybe you don't think they're good posts, but leave those in the chat too. I'd love to hear why you think that something, or what stands out to you about it. But the things that I saw here is that, first of all, they are telling us a lot of information, right? We know that this is a new campaign they're doing. We know that they're filming a commercial. You can hear the voiceover. They're telling us what's going on in the shots, but they're also showing us a lot of stuff, right? We're seeing all of the people that go into making a campaign like this. We're seeing, the time that it takes in, maybe you see this commercial later and, now we're getting a behind the scenes glimpse at it. Maybe we've never seen a commercial be made before. So you can see how many people are on set. And the thing that jumped out to me was that, they've got fire on set, so they have to have a dedicated fire guy, even if it's not a lot of fire. So you're learning those things about the organization beyond just, hey, we filmed a commercial, right? That's what they told you. But you're also learning and seeing, and now you're so much more connected to this than you otherwise might be. So just a fun example here. All right, next thing that makes good content, I think this is going to apply to everybody listening here today. And we've said this for years, even if we were talking about Facebook posts, we were talking about a tweet, now we're talking about TikTok, whatever it is. Good posts educate and they don't overly sell. And I like to use a 90-10 rule pretty much across the board, which means if you think about all the content that you're putting out, content being videos, posts, like anything across any of your channels, the content that you're seeing, we want 90% of those to be educational posts, providing value, answering questions, anything of the sort. We want 10% of them to be selling, right? Which seems that blows people's minds. And that's the hardest part. I know for a lot of business owners too, they say, I need to have a call to action. I need to tell people what I want them to do. But we have to give our audience some credit, right? They're smart. They know what it is you want them to do. So let's take a look at how the San Diego Zoo does this with their, quick little content. And this is a quick one.
Polar bears in San Diego. It's not as crazy as you think. Polar Plunge at San Diego Zoo is home to 3 orphan polar bears, Kaluk and his sister Takik, and our girl Chinook. Their habitat is specially designed just for them, with a pool chilled to around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, shade structures, ice machines, and air-conditioned bedrooms. Plus, their diet is much less fatty than their wild counterparts. Think less seal blubber and more veggies and melons, plus food puzzles and live fish to hunt. Guess you could say it's pretty cool.
And that video ends without ever telling you to come visit the zoo, talking about a promo. Maybe they're giving away tickets, maybe it's half off for the rest of the year. You know, we've seen all the kind of promotions that they do, but that video itself doesn't do any of that, right? But it does a really good job of showing you how they care for the animals, a little bit more educational information about the polar bears, what they eat, some of that info that is just interesting to people. And, you know, of all, like when you Google any of like the top performing, you know, businesses on TikTok, the San Diego Zoo has one of the largest TikTok presences, and any zoo could do this, right? Everybody's got beautiful animals to be showing off, that they're doing it really well because they're educating and getting people to care about the information that they have out there. And then the last one, for the sake of time, we won't watch this one, but you can still pretty much see from the screenshot itself what the video is. And this one we're looking at is Adobe. And Adobe itself has 300,000 followers. It's a lot of followers, but they're also a very large company. But their videos themselves often hit over 1 million views, like on their videos, even though they don't have as large of a following, like when you compare it to Duolingo. And that's because their videos get people talking. So this video that they shared was 5 things that this person would never do now that they've been a graphic designer and they understand all the hardships that go along with it. And, you know, it's things like giving away my designs for free and, you know, some of those other type of things. And then you've got all these comments of people saying, this video has 1.1 million views, and you've got all these comments from other graphic designers saying, oh yeah, I would never do X, Y, and Z, the things that I've learned, or this. It gets people talking about their experiences, and it's generating buzz for this program. And then you got a bunch of people asking them to bring back Flash, which is apparently a problem. All right, so those are the rules pretty much across the board, no matter what type of content you're creating. So even if you decide to go all in on the TikTok side of things, even if that ends up not being as huge of a part of your social media marketing plan, regardless, even when it comes to tweets or LinkedIn posts, those are still some of the things that I've seen make good content across the board, whether it's TikTok video content or different types of content. And now we're just going to look, I thought it'd be helpful to spend some time and look at TikTok versus some of the other channels, because you may already be doing some social media stuff. And so I think it might be helpful to look at, okay, how does this play a role in my Facebook strategy? How does this play a role in some of my other strategies that I may be already doing? So let's take a look at that specifically. So some of the ones that for the sake of this example, I'm going to compare to is going to be Facebook, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And that's because they all use a very similar style of video, which is vertical video, like the video that we were just watching. All of these channels are heavily promoting that right now. You could take your video and put it on all those different channels. And we could talk about LinkedIn and TikTok, or LinkedIn and Twitter, but as of right now, that vertical video isn't as big of a part of those channels. So we'll start here, and then if you have other questions about other channels, just let me know. So let's start by TikTok versus Facebook. So right now, Facebook/Meta has said that they are prioritizing video above all else. But what's unique about Facebook versus some of the other channels is that they don't care what kind of video you're doing. That can be vertical video, it can be longer form video that you already had, horizontal video. Doesn't make a difference to them. They just are prioritizing video right now. Also, what we know about Facebook is that it suits a lot of different types of content. So it's not just video. It's also links to your articles and blogs, maybe landing pages you have on your website, live streams that you're doing. It can support lots of different types of content. Where when we're talking about TikTok, it's only video. Like as of right now, that's the only type of content you can put on that channel. Where Facebook, you can amplify a lot of the other marketing materials that you're already putting together and can help for your business. Then we look at Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels are essentially the same type of content as TikTok content. They really mirror each other in terms of the strategy on both channels. And really, what's popular on TikTok becomes popular on Instagram 2 weeks later. right? So TikTok is or Instagram is kind of following in the footsteps of TikTok in that way. And their algorithms work really similarly, and we're going to dive deep into the algorithms later today. But you may be seeing that, okay, the things that I'm working on, that I'm doing on TikTok will also work in your Instagram strategy. So if you already have an Instagram strategy going, definitely don't throw that out the window. You can start to test on TikTok and then take the things that are working there and mirror them as a part of your Instagram Reel strategy. Then we've got YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts is probably the biggest opportunity, I would say. It doesn't have as big of a presence yet, but everything that I'm seeing, I went to an ad conference recently, everything that they were saying there is that this is one of the biggest areas for growth that we're going to see grow in these next couple of years. And the reason for this is because YouTube, as we know, has the infrastructure to pay its creators. So creators, people, who consider themselves influencers, they make a lot of money on YouTube because YouTube has a program with Google, an AdSense program where they pay people for views there. And it's been around for years and years, so it can be very lucrative for people. So they're starting to roll that out on YouTube Shorts, which is just YouTube's own version of vertical video, short little snippet videos. And so if the TikTok creators are going to start migrating there because it's easier for them to make money, then naturally the audience follows and then businesses follow. And that's how these platforms kind of grow. The advertising gets bigger there. And so it's an area that I'm seeing as a really big opportunity. I don't think that we should ignore it. And at the end of the day, remember, Google owns YouTube. And if SEO is really important to you, which it should be, and being able to be found on search, since Google and YouTube go hand in hand, it's a good idea to be populating your videos on YouTube as well so that they can be easily found in search. So it's something to consider there. And after we talk about all those different channels, and I talk about how vertical video can apply to all those channels, you may be wondering, well, can I just put my content everywhere? And this has kind of changed over years. I used to say no, but in 2022 and 2023, yes, I do think that you should be repurposing your content across different channels with some caveats. But you're potentially investing a lot of time and energy, maybe budget, into creating these videos, and you want to use them in all the different areas. But be mindful of maybe having the same followers on different channels, so you don't want them to get bored of your content if they're seeing the same content over and over again. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of, you can't just download your TikTok video and put it into Instagram, because the music you may be using is probably copyrighted by TikTok, which means you have to just re-upload it into Instagram with no music and then pick Instagram's music library. So be mindful of that. And then be mindful of your audience. Does it make sense to be on all those different channels? That's something you're going to have to start to consider for yourself. All right, I'll pause there. Let me know if you have any questions so far. If not, I'll keep moving along. We've got lots of other info to go through, but let me know if you have any questions. I'll take a sip of water. All right, ping me if you've got any specific questions, but I'll keep moving. Let's talk about how to post a TikTok. Now, I know for some people, this, like I was talking about earlier, this may be info that you know, maybe a good refresher. For some people, you've been on TikTok, but you've never posted a video before, so this might be helpful. And for some people, you don't even have it downloaded on your phone, and this is entirely new info. So I'm going to try to make it so that it's relevant to everybody, no matter what situation we may be in today. But we'll walk through some of the opportunities that you'll have along the way of things that you can do with your TikTok videos. So let's just go step by step. The first step is always going to be the most daunting, which is to plan your concept for that video. So before you post, obviously you have to have an idea, and consider a few things before you really get into it. I'd like for you to first consider, what is my goal for this video? What message am I trying to share with the audience? What am I trying to get across? What's the takeaway? Then think about, okay, who is my audience? And then what do I want that audience to feel or do after having seen my video? There are a couple things you're going to need to know about your audience before you really start creating content for them. And that's, what are they interested in? What are their pain points? What are their motivators? And how is my content going to address all of those specific things? And with all those answered, you can start to kind of form an idea for a video, and then you'll be ready to post a video. And if you've never seen a TikTok before, obviously it's going to be challenging to come up with an idea for it. Or even if you've seen them, there's a lot of things out there. And so you may not know what to create. So later today, we're going to talk about what are some content buckets, like what kind of videos can you create for yourself specifically, but we'll get there in just a little bit. All right, step 2, you've got your concept. The next step is going to be to upload your video or to film it. So in some cases, you may have already taken video that you think would be good for TikTok, like during your own content creation session. So you may have B-roll or videos to use, or you may be needing to take some right then and there. And either is okay. There isn't one way that's better than the other. Other than that, I feel like if you bulk film and you've got a bunch of content, you can sometimes create TikToks out of that, maybe a little bit less daunting that way. But you saw in some of the examples that we did, some of them were clearly shot for that idea, right? So if you consider the Duolingo video, they clearly shot that video with the intention to make that video concept. But if you think about the San Diego Zoo concept, that was just a bunch of shots of the polar bear. So the same thing can work in your industry, right? You could take lots of different B-roll and footage and then figure out how to shape that into your concept. So there's no right way to do it, but you may be in either circumstance. So at this point, you're either going to pick your footage that's on your phone and you're going to upload it into the platform, or you're going to use the camera in TikTok and you're going to film the video right then and there. Either way works. And then TikTok makes this very easy, as does Instagram Reels, for you to edit right then and there in the app. So you may have a team that helps you, or maybe a person who helps you, and you've already edited those videos behind the scenes. That works. But you can also stitch together your different clips within the actual platform itself. And you can see it in this screenshot over here. It says adjust clips and clips, and it makes it really easy to string one clip after another. You do not need to have any prior video editing background or experience to be able to do that. It's literally just snipping, cutting the video in half or snipping off the end or snipping off the beginning to make it all flow together. Super easy to do. And then you'll put it all together to make your video. There are a couple different lengths of video that TikTok typically recommends. It started with 10 seconds, which was like no time at all. Some of the examples we saw were around 20 seconds, 30 seconds, but it started with 10 seconds. Then they started allowing up to 3 minutes of video. And then most recently, like literally within the last couple of weeks, they rolled out 10-minute videos. But the user experience on the platform is still very instant gratification, swipe through one, swipe through another. So I would keep it a little bit shorter. And in 2022, 1 in 4 of the most popular or most liked videos on TikTok were between 21 and 34 seconds. So that gives you an idea of how long roughly to try to keep that video. It seems really short, but you can really get your message across in 30 seconds, and people have very short attention spans. All right, step 3 is to pick your sound. This is one of the most unique parts of TikTok. It's the same on Instagram Reels, but it's something that really plays into the algorithm, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But you need to pick some sort of sound to go along with your video. So that may be the audio that went along with your video. So if it's someone talking, you're going to have the audio of them talking. You don't need to pick a sound. If it's B-roll, you may need to record yourself in the platform, which they make it really easy to do. You just hit the microphone button and you can record a voiceover over your clips. Or you may want to use some of TikTok's sounds, is what they call them, which is essentially saved audio in their platform. That's either music that they have the rights to or popular sounds from other videos. So if somebody had a video that went viral of them saying some kind of crazy statement, then they make it so that you can download that audio from someone else's video and use it in your video. We'll look at some examples later because it's kind of hard to understand that just in concept, but just know you're going to pick some sort of audio, and it may be like meme style audio, or it may just be music that is really popular right now within the app. Keep in mind, you just want that music to align with just your professional brand standards. All right. Then once you've got the video uploaded, you picked your sound or the background music that's going to go along with it. Now you're going to add effects to your video. And this is what makes it distinctly TikTok video, versus maybe video that you'd have on your website or something like that. And what grabs people's attention because it's the visual aspect to the video, right? They offer this on both TikTok and Instagram Reels, the same functions here, but they offer things like filters. So you can put color gradings and things on your videos. You could put, dog ears on yourself. I don't, if you wanted to. But there's also other things like adding text overlays, like you can see here in this example. She's got the concept of her video right smack there in the middle of the video itself. So if you're scrolling through, you'd see what this video is about before you even heard her talk. You can add subtitles for accessibility. So you see down here, this is the concept of the video at the top. And then down here this is what she's saying in the video. Not all of us have our sound on the videos at all times. Sometimes you're sitting at your desk scrolling through, and this makes it so that anybody can know what it is that you're saying in your video without actually having to be able to hear it. It's also, again, great for accessibility. And then finally, at this step, you're also going to set your permissions for that video. So do you want other people to be able to interact with that video? Do you want them to be able to download the video or stitch the video? And we'll talk a little bit about that, what that all means a little bit later. Someone said, how do you add that text? Great question. And for that, I'm going to just go back to my other slide. All right, so right here in this slide, this is what it looks like when you've got your video uploaded, and then you see all these other things right here on the right-hand side. So this is all the stuff you can add. So you got the privacy settings there, audio editing. That's where if you click that button, you can record your voice talking over the video. Clip and adjust clips is so that you can cut your video down if you need to make it any shorter, put multiple clips together. Effects right here is going to be if you want to put a filter on that video. And then you've got stickers. That's what you might be used to seeing on like Instagram stories, where you could put the temperature on it, or you could put a GIF on it, or we looked at that one that was like polar bears in San Diego and it had a little GIF at the bottom of it. So those are stickers. And then right above it, which is what you answer to your question, is adding text. And that is how you add the red text in that woman's video. I'll show you that again in a second. And then captions, you can't really see it. It's grayed out. It must have I didn't have the permissions on in the screenshot. But captions is where it will, the app itself will listen to what you said and it will make auto-generated captions for you. It's actually pretty good. So then when I scroll forward to see, you can see what that actually looks like. This is the text. You can change the color, you can change the font. It gives you a lot of cool ways to customize it. And then down here is the caption. Because of the way that this looks, I imagine she added the captions in post-editing of the video, and then she used TikTok to create the text up here. So that's what that looks like. And you'll want to get in there and experiment with it. But again, it's actually pretty user-friendly. So it lets you pick what part of the video you want the text to pop up on. So you may want to have the text the whole video, or you may want it to just be, in the first 5 seconds, then people get the idea of what it is you're talking about. And we're going to look at more examples of the real estate industry specifically in some TikToks, and it will show you some other ways to use some of these fun filters and effects. All right, step 5 is to write your caption. So just like any other social media channel out there, it's not just the video itself. There's also a caption that goes along with it. But I would say it's definitely secondary on this channel. I had to actually click like see more in order to see this entire caption here. It isn't as intuitive as maybe on a Facebook post or an Instagram post where you see the caption right then there in your face. But there is a caption that goes along with it, and that allows you to add extra context to your video. You want to keep it short and sweet. Again, because you have to click see more and no one's going to read a novel by any means. But it could be a good place for you to add, like I said, more context to your video, maybe add more information you couldn't fit into the video, or maybe add a call to action if there is some action you want people to take from that video. So I'll read it in case you can't see it here. Her caption says, "Is there really a need for a real estate agent? All the information is online. So where is the value in an agent?" And then she's got her hashtags, which we'll talk about later. And then her video itself was her telling the audience like why she provides value as an agent. And that's the last step. Once you write your caption, you hit post, and I think it lets you pick a thumbnail, and then from there it lives on your channel and it starts to get populated out on the platform. And we're going to talk a lot more about how the algorithm all works, since that's a little bit complex. But this next section I think is going to provide a lot of value, because we're going to look at some real actual concepts, because you may be saying to yourself, like, that all sounds great, but I still don't have any ideas for a video. And that's okay. I'm going to help provide some good starting points for some videos right here. Or on the flip side, you may say, yeah, that all sounds great, I've got a million ideas. And that's also great. Jot those down, save those somewhere so you can come back to it, because we'll talk about content planning at the end. But for now, in case this may feel a little bit overwhelming, or it may just feel like I'm not creative in that way, or maybe you are creative and you just try to figure out what that's going to look like for you. So to start off, we're going to talk about some content buckets that can help you understand what are some of the trends, what videos are popular in this space, and then how can you adapt those trends to fit with your specific target audience and who you are and what you feel comfortable putting out there. You may know, if you're a TikTok user, there are some really specific TikTok trends, and I'm going to stay away from anything that's overly trendy, because trends come and go like that. What was popular on here because it was in last night's episode of Game of Thrones will be popular for a week, and then it will no longer be popular anymore. And I'm talking about more concepts for videos that, no matter your industry, no matter what trends are popular now versus others, these are still going to be types of videos you may want to create for yourself for the foreseeable future. I'm not sure they'll always be popular, but for now, these are some buckets that can help you get started. And then hopefully you can envision, okay, I would take that idea and I would run with it this way. So let's look at some specifics. The first, and I'll get this video queued up for us here. The first is the voiceover. I like this because literally anyone can do it. You can take video that you either already have, or you can easily create, grab on your phone or with a professional videographer. And you can also take, like, let's say you've got a couple hours with a video, you can use that for lots and lots of videos, right? It's okay to use the same video over and over again if you use it in a different concept. This kind of video is very education focused. So like the San Diego Zoo, you're trying to educate the audience in some way. In this case, subtitles are essential, I think, because you don't have as much of a visual element to it. So you need, in case they don't have their audio in, they can't hear you talking, you're going to need to be able to still get your message across, because the message is all told with the voiceover, right? So it's really essential you have the captions. Hopefully this example, I pulled one that does have subtitles. And you want it to be really visually interesting. And that's one of the things, sometimes it's something that we can play into. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging, but people like to see online things that are aesthetically pleasing, that are aspirational. And sometimes we have that content to our use, sometimes we don't. And that will vary person to person. But let's take a look at this example and see how they used the voiceover option on TikTok.
What is up, guys? It's a brand new year, so let's talk about brand new homes. I know a ton of you are going to want to know what something like this costs. Well, location plays a huge factor, of course. This specific one is located in Prosper and is just under $1.1 million. So when you're looking for a new home and you're needing to stay in a specific budget, something that I like to recommend is to find out what you can and cannot compromise on. For example, if finishes and style are super important to you, but you can compromise on location, that will help you stay in price range.
All right. So she didn't have subtitles. If I were to audit this and give some feedback, I would recommend subtitles, because if you didn't have the audio on, if you couldn't hear it, you'd be able to see the pretty B-roll of the house, but you wouldn't be able to hear what it is that she's saying. And then someone asked, I always wondered, how do they speed up the videos to go through the house like that? It's a filter and a function in TikTok. So there, when you go in to upload your video, when you go to effects, there's an effect for that. So if you get in there and kind of start messing around with it, that's one of the ways that they do it, unless they have a video editor who helped them do it, but it is a capability of TikTok. And you can, you saw it was just clips of the house, right? So you could take the same clips put them in a different order, do a different voiceover, and have another video that may go out into the feed, right? So this is an organic video. It didn't have any ad budget behind it. The caption says new year, new home, #Dallas, #Dallas real estate. It had 7,000 likes and 88 comments. So pretty successful here on an organic video. It's definitely, she would probably post the same thing on Facebook and she would get nowhere near the same amount of interactions because of the way that the algorithm's working. And we'll talk about that later. So that's one idea. Be thinking about, okay, maybe there's a way for you to do some voiceover footage. All right, content bucket number 2 is the green screen. Now, maybe this is just an opportunity because I actually didn't see a lot of anybody in the real estate side of things really utilizing this capability. It's a filter in TikTok. It's pretty fun. You see it, personally, when you scroll through TikTok, people use it in lots of different ways. And it really is just you with, if you're sitting against a blank wall, you record yourself and then you can put anything in the background. So you could put more B-roll in the background. But what I like in this video, we're going to look at the example of, is he's putting an article, right? So maybe on LinkedIn, you would share this article and you would put your own commentary behind it. In the TikTok world of it is, he puts himself in front of the article and he's commenting on this article and how, in this example, millennials want to retire at 50. So I thought it was interesting that I didn't actually see too much in the real estate space utilizing this function. But I do see a lot of people using it, and it is a really popular tool in TikTok. So let's take a look at this one right here.
So I see this article today. Millennials want to retire at 50. Now, as a millennial who definitely wants to retire early, 50 ain't it. It's 40. The biggest question for early retirement is how much money do you actually need to retire? Now, there's a rule and it's called the 4% rule. If you can understand this, then you can start kicking on the beach sooner than you might think. 3 steps, follow closely. Step 1, determine your expected annual expenses when you retire. Costs for things like transportation, house, cars, kids, blah, 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 blah. Step 2,
and I'll cut it off there. Sorry if you were interested in what it is he was saying. I think we get the concept right of the green screen. So in his case, he doesn't have video, right, for this example, other than himself, which is fine. He's using still shots and then talking over it, being an expert in his industry about what it is that he's talking about. Is providing, if you talk about the things I said, make good content, right? He's hitting a lot of them. He's has people. It generates buzz because he's talking about something that some people might find controversial. I mean, there's 115 comments. I'm sure some people didn't agree with him. It educates and doesn't sell. He's not necessarily pitching himself as an expert, but he's showing off his expertise. So it hits a lot of those things that make good content, and it utilizes some of TikTok's capabilities, which is pretty cool. All right, this next one is the talking head, and this is my personal favorite. So I'll get queued up and then I'll tell you a little bit more about this one. I like this one because it's really quick and easy to film, but I think it's really engaging. It can be really great for bulk content because you can sit and answer 100 frequently asked questions that people ask you. It gives you an opportunity to answer frequently asked questions, maybe combat potential pushback you may tend to get from others. What I like to do is, like I would do for SEO, I may look to see what people are blogging about. I do the same thing for this talking head style video. So I see, what are people writing articles about online? What questions do they have? What are they going into YouTube to search for? And then I make videos for those concepts. It just me talking about them and then being a little bit creative about it. Someone asked for that last video, does he use a teleprompter? Any ideas of a good complete system that can we use at home and create similar content? And totally. It depends, right? He's a content creator, so he may just be naturally good in front of the camera. It's why I like the talking head style video, because someone asks you a question and you don't have to actually have someone there asking you a question. You could imagine an imaginary person is asking you the question and then you just answer. And then you can edit it later if you talk a little bit too long, but I like it because it comes off more natural. If you want to use a teleprompter, there's a really great iPad app that may also work for iPhone. I'm just not certain because I have it on my iPad. And you can upload Google Docs or Word documents into it, and it's literally a teleprompter app. So all you would need is to prop your iPad or your iPhone up on something and then upload your script into it, and it will scroll through. It's what we use when we do video shoots with our clients who want to use a teleprompter. And it works just like an actual teleprompter does. You can make the speed go at different lengths, things like that. But in this next video, we're going to look at, she's definitely not using a teleprompter, and it's more of a question answer style video, which I like because if you're not comfortable reading off a teleprompter, that takes some practice. And in this case, you're an expert in your industry, you know what you're talking about. And so it can be a little bit more natural to do it this style. So let's look at her video.
It's not a seller's market at the same time it's a buyer's market. So you're not going to be able to sell at the height of the market and buy at the bottom of the market at the same time. If you go ahead and sell today at the height of the market, you've got to go into a rental. So likely all of that extra profit that you made selling in the high market is going to get sucked away while you're in the rental waiting for the prices to come down. Don't base when you buy on whether the market is high or low. Base when you buy based on when the product that you want comes on the market.
And it's funny that you can see from that video we just watched actually uses the tip that Simon in the comment section just said, which is that the TikToks are split up. So it's not too hard to memorize a couple lines at a time, which you could see. She may be doing an interview style, she may be doing a scripted style, but either way, you could see that there were just short little clips that were all linked together. So it isn't as hard to remember what it is that you want to say. The longer the shot, the harder it can be to memorize all those lines. So I really like the talking head style video because I think it comes off still really professional. And you can still play with some of the fun editing things that are on the back end of TikTok, while also utilizing a style of video that you may be a little bit more comfortable with because you may have done that style of video in the past. All right, and I went the wrong way. Sorry about that. All right, two more different kind of content examples. This one right here, while I'll get queued up, is definitely the most out there one. So this isn't going to be for everybody. It depends on your personality and your comfortability with this style of video. It's definitely more fun and lighthearted. You just have to decide if this is something you're comfortable kind of creating, but it's a skit style video. So I'll show you his skit, like again, it's very specific to how your personality is and how you want to come across online, but I see a lot of people do it in the space, so I'll show you this example.
Hi, can I have a loan? I'm looking to buy a house. Ah, fantastic. We'll need a 20% down payment and then you're good to go. Actually, I'd rather just give you a down payment of 3 to 5%. Well, my apologies, sir, but we simply can't give you a loan without a sizable down payment. Actually, according to the Federal Housing Administration, as long as I pay a mortgage insurance premium, I can qualify for a loan with a credit score of 580 and a 3.5% down payment. Well, it all seems to check out, so here's your letter of approval. You really came in here prepared. Oh, thanks, but this one guy on TikTok taught me.
And there you go. So we may not all be actors, we may not all want to be actors, but it definitely relates to the audience's challenges. It definitely was successful. It has 52,000 likes on TikTok and 396 comments. And it's definitely a little bit more out there, but that is an option that you have too. And then someone asked, can you share the video that you create on TikTok to Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube? And so that's what I was kind of diving into a little bit earlier. Yes, you can, just be a little bit careful about some of the things. What I would recommend is you upload them, like the raw footage, the same raw footage, into those different areas, but edit them in the own platforms the most that you can. Because if you remember the one with the woman talking, there was a background music, and that music was TikTok's music. So if she downloads that and uploads it into Instagram, one, it's going to have the watermark, and two, the video will likely get taken down because Instagram doesn't own that music. TikTok owns that music. But what she can do is take the same video of her talking, just upload it into Instagram, re-edit it in Instagram, pick Instagram's music to go along with it, and then have the content live in both places. Spending a lot of time making these videos, I do recommend putting them in all the different places. You just have to be careful with some of the effects and things you use, making sure that it looks good on all the different platforms. All right, and then last example we're going to take a look at here before we dive into the algorithm is stitching. So basically, stitching is TikTok's version of sharing content. So you're probably familiar with this on something like LinkedIn, where you share someone else's article on LinkedIn. and you add your own comment to it. The same thing can be done on TikTok, it's just a little bit different. So I'll get this one queued up. This one is a slightly different industry, but I think that they utilize this tool really well. A lot of people in the TikTok space use this for evil and not for good. But what I mean by this is they stitch other people's videos to kind of maybe talk smack about them or to argue their point. I think that there is a way to do this in a way that's supportive of others. It doesn't burn bridges. You can even disagree with someone's point in their video, but do it in a respectful way, just like you would do by sharing someone's like sharing a LinkedIn article and adding your own commentary or expertise to it. But the reason I like this example is because I think she does it in a way that's really supportive of the original creator while adding her own information to it. Not this one right here.
Couldn't afford to buy the house that you wanted. Is it worth it to save and wait and buy it later?
Definitely do not wait. Time spent in the market is way better than time spent waiting for the market to change. Buy the property that you can afford right now, and then use the money from selling that property when it appreciates to buy your dream home in a couple years.
Short and sweet. So the original video that she's sharing was from Jamie Realtor, and then she stitched it and added her own video on top of it. So that's how she was able to share his video while still adding her own expertise and commentary. And then the question that came in, TikTok has a really cool tool to edit and link the short videos in one. Does Instagram have that option? Yes. Pretty much, I'm trying to think of an exception, but pretty much anything that TikTok has built into their platform, Instagram has found a way to build into their platform. It's a little bit slower on YouTube Shorts with the same functions. But yeah, they pretty much mirror each other in terms of capabilities. All right, let's look at the algorithm specifically. This is one of the trickiest things, and always has been, with social media, regardless of the platform, because for the most part, the platforms aren't just going to come out and tell you what they prioritize. In TikTok's example, there actually was a leak, and we know a little bit behind the scenes, allegedly, of what the algorithm prioritizes, and we're going to talk about that. But across the board, Instagram's not telling you how their algorithm works. TikTok's no different. They're not either. But there are some things that we've learned on the platforms that we know work, we know doesn't work, and there's some ways to adjust what it is that you're doing in order to work with these algorithms and not work against it. But in order to do that, you really have to understand how it works. So we're going to dive into what are some of the things that TikTok prefers. All right, let's first talk about a lot of the old algorithms, the ones you may be a little bit more familiar with. So one of the reasons that creators have gotten so popular on a platform like TikTok is because of TikTok's highly intelligent algorithm. It amazes me what they're able to do with the algorithm on TikTok versus some of the other channels. And it's really unlike any of the other channels. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the other platforms that you're probably familiar with, their algorithm was all based off of who you follow and who you engage with or you're connected with. So we'll use LinkedIn as an example because I think most of us are pretty familiar with LinkedIn. If you scroll through your LinkedIn feed, other than the ads that you're seeing, the paid ads, you're going to see posts from those that you follow and those that you engage with most. First and foremost, that's what you're going to see. And then you're going to see content from people that those people engage with. So if I'm connected to Joe, I see Joe's posts if I engage with him a lot. And then I see the content that Joe is commenting on or sharing or engaging with. And that's how all the platforms work. The traditional Facebook feed, the original Instagram feed, LinkedIn, all of those. TikTok has entirely turned this on its head, and they're delivering users a highly curated feed based off of their own individual interests and not a curated feed the old school way, which means that no two feeds are the same. And we'll talk a little bit about how stuff actually comes up for you then. So TikTok itself works off of a lottery-based algorithm, which means it doesn't have anything to do with who you're connected with and who you follow. It's all based off of what TikTok decides to put into your feed, kind of like you would a slot machine and what comes up on a slot machine every time you pull the trigger. This is also the same as Instagram Reels in their dedicated feeds. So on Instagram, there's an Instagram Reels feed, and then we're talking about TikTok in the For You page. There is an additional feed in TikTok that's your following feed, But we know that that is not used as often. People don't tend to scroll through their following feed as often. They tend to scroll through their For You page, which is that lottery-based page. It doesn't matter who you're connected with. It has to do with all these other things that we're about to talk about. The best part about this lottery-based system is that you don't have to have a large following in order for your videos to come up in other people's feeds. So if you think about how Instagram worked, you had to have followers in order for people to see your posts, or you used hashtags and hopefully Instagram showed it to other people. But for the most part, Facebook or Instagram, you had to start to grow a following, and then that following saw your post. With the TikTok For You page, it's all based off of these individual factors. So we're going to dive into each of the factors and how it works. There are 4 main factors that TikTok takes into consideration with its algorithm that we know of. I'm sure there's lots of other things. It's a very highly intelligent platform, but this is what we know it prioritizes. The first is individual account interests. So when you first go to sign up for your TikTok account, you're asked to select the things that you're interested in and the things that you're not interested in. And that creates a baseline for what they are and are not going to show you in your own individual feed. As you're also seeing videos that scroll through, there's also, anytime that a video comes up, you have the opportunity to hold it down and click not interested. And that tells TikTok to no longer show you that style of video based off of all these other factors we're going to talk about. And that also starts to help curate someone's individual feed. The next of the 4 factors that they consider is user interaction. So as a user, TikTok learns about your individual interests over time based off of how you interact on the app. They see what a user likes, what they share with their friends with the share button, and what they comment on to determine what else you may potentially be interested in. This is why when you start to watch a video about one specific subject, you may also then notice an influx of videos also on that subject. And that's because they consider how long you watched the video, if you liked it, if you shared it, what you did with that video in order to deliver you more content. They also consider the accounts that you do follow to find other accounts that may be that may put out similar type of content. The third thing that the algorithm considers is video information. And this is by far the most innovative part of the TikTok algorithm that none of the other channels are using, and what I think is just so cool. So not only do they consider the comments and the user behavior and the actions that users are taking on the video, but they actually consider the content itself. So that means that if a certain word is used in your caption or in your text overlay or in a hashtag, in all those different ways, they're going to show other videos to that person if they engage with your video based off of those things. So if you use the word California real estate in your text overlay and someone watches that, they show TikTok that they're interested in it, they'll show more videos because of that phrase in the caption. It's pretty cool. They can scan audio, they can scan sounds, locations. So based off of your own specific permissions that you have set up, which we'll talk about in a second, they scan all of those things to deliver you a really highly curated feed. It's pretty cool and also scary. And then the last factor is account settings and device settings. We know that TikTok is popular all over the world, as all these channels are, and that's a lot of content to filter through. So it's because of this element of the 4 things that they consider that you see things like videos that are in your general location, geographic location, that you see things that are in the language that you speak, that you see things that are based off of that look good on your type of device. When you make your account, they see all those things about you so that they deliver content to you that they know you're going to like. TikTok has always said from the beginning, it's a user-first platform. Currently, it may change as time goes on, but they really care about how do we keep people on the platform as long as possible. And they do that by delivering them content that they think and they know that they're going to care about. And that's why these 4 things are really important when it comes to the algorithm. Now, if you play into all that, right, you consider all those things, you pick sounds that people are, that care about, we'll talk about that next. It helps your video come up more often in other people's feed. You're more likely to win the lottery. And that's how somebody with no followers at all gets 1 million views on their video. Something that would never even be possible on TikTok or on Instagram or Facebook with the old algorithm. So it's pretty cool. All right. Stop me if you have any more questions, but keep those coming in as you've been doing. But we're going to talk about trending sounds next. We've talked about this a little bit. We talked about sounds earlier. So to just start with what a sound is, to put this simply, it's audio that you can add to your video, either from TikTok's music library or from other videos on the platform. Now, if the person who made the video allows it, anybody's audio can be saved as a trending sound, and then it can be used in other people's videos in the future. So you'll see this quite a bit when one person's video gets really popular. People, they make the permission so that anybody can download that audio, and then other people use that audio in their videos. Also, music that's really popular on TikTok, it gets really popular, and then other people use that sound in their videos. So why is this important? It's because, like we said earlier, trends is everything on this platform. And so if there is a sound that is really popular right now, we know that's one of the things that TikTok cares about in the algorithm. So if they see that you're using that sound, you're more likely to come up in the feed because somebody else watched a whole video with that same sound. So they prioritize other videos with that sound. It's basically how it works. All right, so how do you find a sound that's popular within the app? There's a couple of different ways to do this. The first I recommend is just scrolling through the TikTok feed. You'll start to hear the same music or sounds over and over again, which can be a little bit obnoxious, but it also gives you a really good idea of what the algorithm is currently favoring. Then you can save those sounds. There's a save option for music or sounds, and that'll all go into like your saved folder. So when you go to upload a video, you can click from some of the saved audio that you've already saved. The second option is that you can go into, like when we looked at in the beginning of our talk, you can click on add a sound, and that brings you up to the sound library, and they tell you right then and there what is recommended for you. They have playlists of things like TikTok viral, which is sounds and music that's really popular right now. You can search for music if you just want to use a specific song. And from there, you can pick that music and put it along with your video. And a fun hack with this that is just kind of fun to experiment with is maybe you're doing a talking head style video and you don't really want there to be sound in the background, but you still want to play in with the algorithm. What I see a lot of people do and what really does work is you can add that sound to your video, but then it lets you adjust the audio levels. You can just turn the sound all the way down. So nobody would hear it, but it would still say that it's attached to your video. Now, the big caveat with that is all the music on TikTok isn't always business appropriate, and someone will still see, even if they can't hear it, it'll still say that that music is attached to your video. So you want to make sure that you're picking music that you're okay having represent you in a professional way. But otherwise, there's lots to experiment with when it comes to music and sounds. All of that said, it's the exact same on Instagram Reels. So the prioritizing of sounds works the same. You can add music just the same, just that you can't cross share. So if you put it on your video on TikTok, TikTok owns that audio. You can't just upload it straight into Instagram and vice versa. All right, so that's that on sounds. Next, we're going to talk about networking on TikTok. So as experts in your industry, everybody's very familiar with networking. And this is going to be the same in the virtual space. It's something you've also probably heard a lot or done a lot with other social media platforms. And it's pretty similar with what works on TikTok versus what works on some of the other channels. All right, so what is networking on social media? What we're talking about is connecting you with your audience on that platform and engaging in conversations. This can be done by following them, interacting with them, utilizing some of the tools that TikTok provides, like stitching other people's videos. Across the board, what I've always found is the algorithms are really smart, and they want to know that you're a real person using the app, not just a marketer or not just a bot. It's like I was saying earlier, TikTok prioritizes the user experience above all else. So if you're using the platforms as real people, they tend to prioritize your content over other people's. And this is one of those things where we don't know everything about the Instagram algorithm or the TikTok algorithm, but what has been said and what I've seen is that they can even tell if you just go, log in, post your video, sign out. And that's what you do every single day. They see that you're not engaging as a real user, you're just putting content up on the platform, and they are going to deprioritize your content versus other people's content, which is why I typically say, like, use it like a real person, right? Log in, swipe around, comment on people's videos, log out, then log in the afternoon, post your video, comment on some people's stuff, and then log out. You don't have to spend all day doing this. Obviously, you've got other things to do. But engaging as a real person and not just a robot that's going in and posting content is going to serve you better long term. Hashtags also play a big role in the content creation and also in the networking side of things. These are ways that TikTok can help to categorize your content. It's definitely not as successful of a marketing approach as it used to be. Back in the day of like early Instagram marketing, you used to be able to just do like 50 hashtags and Instagram would then push you out based off of that. And it definitely isn't as easy to game the system kind of that way in 2022 as it used to be, but it is still something that TikTok favors in the algorithm. So there's a couple ways that you can search hashtags. You can start by looking at TikTok's search function and seeing what it is that is popular right now. If you type in a hashtag you think would be good, it will give you 100 other similar hashtags to use. Most people use about 3 to 4 in their TikTok posts. You can also scroll through your own feed and see what other hashtags people are using right now. And then TikTok puts on things called hashtag challenges. And those are hashtags that they're saying right now it's kind of like an ad. They're saying like, hey, this is a top hashtag for us right now. So if you look to see what those challenges are, you can engage in them and kind of be a part of the popularity of that specific hashtag. Of course, commenting and following above all else, TikTok cares about the users on their platform, like I was saying. It also is going to help with your overall presence on the platform as other people will see you in those areas. It's one of the ways that Duolingo kind of blew up on TikTok was obviously they're a notable brand. People know who they are, but they comment on everyone's TikTok videos on all the trending. It's probably just someone doing this all day long, but it is one of the ways that they really grew their presence was because they were interacting with other people's. Now we can even talk about that on a smaller scale, right? And if you think about the particular industry that you're in, the market that you're in, potential referral partners, and interacting with other people's videos. Remembering not to be salesy or to be really sales focused, but instead to be supportive, to be adding to their content, to be adding to the value of the community. This is a great place that you can show off your humor or your personality and let that kind of shine through in a smaller, easier way. And to spend time, interacting every day and not just, like I was saying, sign in and signing out. And then the final one, which we talked about earlier, stitching videos. This is one of the only ways that TikTok really allows you to share videos. And it's an opportunity to add your insights to a trending topic or to add value by sharing other videos that you think are high value. This is kind of an approach that people use on LinkedIn, which is to curate and find content that is really high value, maybe articles, things like that, and then to share it with their own audience. So you can do something kind of similar by sharing other video that you think is really high quality video, and then adding your own twist to it or adding your own commentary to it or reacting to it in some way. And it's a great way to kind of increase your footprint in the industry. All right, so we talked about a lot of stuff so far. We talked about creating content buckets, how the algorithm works. And so how are you going to fit this into, your day-to-day life? We know that content planning can feel a little bit overwhelming. And the best way that I think to tackle this is with content buckets. So when you first get started, just spend some time and consider what your own personal content buckets might be. What do you think are 5 to 10 different types of videos that you will create? Or if it's easier for you to kind of wrap your mind around, consider 5 to 10 topics that you'd like to make videos about, maybe even more than 10, and then start that may let you feel a little bit more freedom to like what type of content you do with it, but it may help to just start with the topics. So either one's fine. Start with the type of videos you want to make or the topics of the videos. And then start to put things into those buckets to help you build out what a month of content would look like. If I've got these 5 different content buckets, let's think of 2 specific posts for each of those content buckets. Now I've got 10 posts that I'm going to create. And sit down and create your content for a month if you can, if not at least a week or 2 in advance. That way, you know what you're going to talk about, you know what your content plan is going to be moving forward, and planning ahead is really the key to be successful. It's really hard to wake up every day and say, okay, I need to post today. What am I going to post about? Instead, I'd recommend setting a couple hours aside on a weekend or a week, whatever works for you, planning that content out, maybe batch filming it. And then that way, when you sit down every day, it's going to take you 10 minutes to post a video instead of stressing out an hour trying to figure out what you're going to post that day. And that's the same on any platform, even if it's what Instagram post I'm going to post today. I always recommend this kind of content bucket structure because it can make it a little bit more digestible for someone who isn't doing this all day long, right? In some cases, maybe you have people to help you with this, a social media manager to help with this, or you're just dedicated to spending a little bit more time on it. But everyone doesn't always have that option. So you have to kind of figure out how much time do I have to be able to spend on this and then work backwards from there. So from there, I'd recommend building yourself a content calendar. When we create content for our clients, we create a whole week or 2 in advance of content that lays out what the video is going to be, when I'm going to post it, what the hashtags are going to be, what the caption is going to be, and plan that all out ahead of time. This gives you kind of a visual representation of what it is your goals are, to make sure that you're not just posting about the same thing over and over again, that you've got kind of some variety in the different content that you're planning on posting. And when we talk about KPIs in a couple of minutes, it makes it so that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. You're actually looking to see, okay, what type of my content is working or isn't working, so I can do more of the stuff that is working and plan that out kind of ahead of time. With TikTok videos, I recommend filming a couple weeks worth of content in advance if you can, and then saving time to set aside to write those posts. That way, it only takes a couple minutes to post the video and you're not filming the same day that you're trying to post. And then the posting schedule, which is, again, it's really going to be dependent on what you're able to commit to. Again, remember I said it's better to do a couple things really well than try to spread yourself too thin across every single platform. Unfortunately, the TikTok platform really is a volume game. So posting frequently and consistently is really important. And while a lot of people recommend, if you were going to go all in on TikTok, the recommended posting schedule is 1 to 4 times a day. I understand that's a lot of content to create and not everyone has that time to dedicate to it. So instead, figure out what cadence really does work for you and then just be really consistent with it. That's what's more important above anything else. And for me, I find for most people, that would be trying to post 3 to 5 times a week. Like maybe committing to posting once a day or posting once a day, Monday to Friday, or posting a couple times throughout the week. Maybe start with 3 posts throughout the week and then working up from there. Try not to stress about the number of posts and instead focus on uploading consistent quality content. The reason that they recommend posting up to 4 times a day is because remember, it's the lottery system. So by posting more often, you increase your chance of coming up in people's feeds. But that's a big time commitment. So just try to be really consistent with it and follow those best practices we talked about. And you're still just as likely to come up. And then how do you know if any of that is working or if it's worth the time to be investing in it? Obviously, getting started. I know someone mentioned in the comments earlier, like a lot of this is just testing and figuring out, practicing. It's a big part of it. But there are some indicators that you can look at to figure out if you're on track. So TikTok provides a lot of information on the back end of the account. As long as you sign up for the full version, you turn on all the permissions to be able to see analytics. They'll give you some creator tool analytics that show things like video views, profile views, likes, comments, things like that. It shows you a lot of information about your audience specifically, what time of day people are engaging, and then use that information to make more informed decisions moving forward. So test different content variations. You've got your 5 buckets. do that for a month and then look to see at the analytics, are there certain buckets or topics or types of content that I'm doing that is more successful than others? What is it that I'm doing that is or isn't working with the algorithm? And then use that to make informed decisions about the next month's content that you're going to be planning. So, okay, every time I do a talking head video, those don't perform very well. I'm going to pull back on the amount of them that I'm putting into my strategy or whatever it might be. So from there, start by testing and reviewing the analytics, but try not to look at it every day. The analytics will go up and down every day. I typically recommend trying to look at it like once or twice a month. And this is where I think a lot of people stop, and that's going to give you a lot of really good information. And also try to also look what I call after the click, which basically means if you're able to, I know it depends just on how people's websites are set up and what you may or may not have access to, but if you're able to, having Google Analytics installed is going to give you an end-to-end view on what is actually working at the end of the day. So if we bring it all the way back to the beginning when I was talking about the hub and figuring out like what your main thing you want people to do is, whether that's going to your website, filling out a form, calling you, all the above, whatever it is, the TikTok analytics are only going to show you what's popular on TikTok, which is great. But if you have additional analytics set up, Google Analytics is the big one. And then if you also have a phone number in your different areas, you can set up call tracking through something like CallRail, which will show you how many calls you're actually getting from specific places. Then you'll get a better idea of, okay, maybe I get half the amount of views when I post this style of video, but I know that when I post that video, I get way more traffic to my website, or people actually call me, they actually pick up the phone. And at the end of the day, that is what is more important than the views or the likes on the videos. All right, I saved this for last. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but since we have a little bit of time, we'll kind of dip our toe into the advertising side of it. This can get a little bit advanced. So if you have specific questions about it, I'll have, contact info at the end and you can reach out to me and we can talk a little bit more about it. But obviously we talked about the whole organic side of things. And then the next thing would be the paid side of things. So TikTok has rolled out paid ads and it is becoming a part of the platform itself. And there is a way to kind of wrap this into what you may be already doing. You may have heard from a lot of people that social media is now pay to play. We just talked about all the reasons that it's not necessarily, but some of the other channels, it does play a bigger role than others. And you may be using the different channels to boost your social media engagement by utilizing ads, right? And there's a way to, I think, fold in TikTok ads from the beginning to be a part of your bigger social media advertising platform or, strategy that you have going on. The targeting works similarly. So this is all based off of targeting ads, right? It's not intent ads like Google would be, where someone's searching and then comes seeing an ad. Instead, you're telling TikTok what type of person you would like to go after based off of demographics, where they're located geographically, things like that. And then TikTok is going to then push your video out into the feed based off of that demographic on a pay per click model. The good thing about this is that it's guaranteed impressions. The bad thing about that is you're obviously paying for it and you're competing against everyone else who has those same thresholds set up for the targeting. But because TikTok is so new in this space, it's actually quite a bit cheaper to advertise on TikTok versus other channels, which basically means that your dollar is going to go further. So if you've been seeing across all your other platforms that it's about $1 a click to get people to go to your website, you may find that you have like half the cost per click on TikTok. So with all that in mind, what I typically recommend for people who are interested in dipping their toe into the TikTok advertising space is using a sandbox texting method, which essentially is the idea of, it comes from software testing, right? But it's testing in a controlled setting to figure out what does or doesn't work, and then taking that and scaling it from there. So what I would recommend is test your different creatives on TikTok to see what does and doesn't resonate with people on a paid model. And then you can take your winning ads, you can take the videos that are performing really well on this platform, and then put them on some of the more expensive platforms that you may have already, that may be already a bigger part of your social media advertising system that you have set up. So I use it as a testing ground because your ad dollar will go further, you'll get more impressions, and then you can take what you learn and apply it to some of the other places. And then with all that said and done, this is something that we help a lot with for our clients. We have a couple different packages that we do when it comes to doing video creation with our clients who aren't our clients on our full digital marketing scale, but maybe want help with their video. So there are a couple different things that we do have. We've got a video shoot coming up that we're considering doing at the end of this week, which would be a 30-minute time slot. People come into our Orange County office and they get a series of 4 highly produced cut videos. And then we also have a package where we can go to our clients and we set up a full or a half day shoot at their office, and we would shoot to try to get like 12 if a half day, 24 for a full day edited final videos that you can use on TikTok and Instagram and those kind of places. So if you're interested in any of that, I've got the email here. I'll put my contact slide up on the end. And that is something that we could talk about doing too. I'll put that here. Let me know if you have any questions. I definitely have some time here at the end to answer any questions you have about any of this. If you have specific questions that you more just want to talk about one-on-one, here's our general contact info for KWSM. And then my email is Taylor, Taylor at KWSM Digital. So just like this email down here. And I'm happy to answer like any quick questions that you might have. Cost for the video stuff. They would be custom for the like half and full day video shoot. So just email me if you're interested in that. And then the 30-minute video slots at our office where you can come and just do them really quickly. That is all up on our website. And that's like, we've got time slots on our website. We've got the pricing up there. And that one's really easy to sign up for. And then email me if you want more info about the custom packages for like a full or a half day shoot. And then I'm putting my email here into the chat. So there's my email, and I'll put the link as well. And then I'll hang out here if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, thanks so much for hanging out with me today.